Our next honorees are young for their accomplishments and young for that which they've been through, but have already managed to make a huge impact on the hearts of their Rebbeim in Yeshivat HaTorah. Tefillah has many facets, one of them being the encounter with our weaknesses and inabilities to make a change. We look heavenward, hoping and yearning, while recognizing that there is indeed a larger plan beheld by the Almighty. Our whole nation, as well, has gone through times of difficulty, and at times during the height of our pleading with God for it to end, it somehow worsened. And then, as it always happens, the tears eventually turn into joy, and the difficulties transform into our destiny. What lasts with us from the experiences, though, is our growth and connection to God throughout the ordeal. Just at the point when Ben and Elizabeth's daughter, Ariella, was to go for heart surgery, Rav Elyashiv Zechrono Tzaddik Livracha fell ill, and Ben called me to make sure that the yeshiva doesn't forget about a Gadol Adar in our tefillot while praying for their daughter. Recognizing the power of tefillah, he chose to think about others during his plight. They asked that thousands of people daven, recognizing that only Hashem can save their daughter. He answered their prayers, and she survived the unlikely. And I give my bracha to you that one day she will stand before all of us and surprise us all. The zechuyot that you have brought to the world, including my grand student Ariella, are tremendous and will be yours forever. It is our greatest honor to have Ben, Elizabeth, and Ariella Berman as our tefillah honorees this evening. Please turn your attention once again to the screen.
My wife was pregnant with Ariella, and they did an ultrasound on her, and they said your baby has a condition called tetralogy of Fallot, which essentially means that there's a hole in the heart, and blood was passing incorrectly between two of the chambers of the heart. And they called me and they said, we need to do an emergency C-section. So they delivered her. The doctor pulled Ariella out with just one hand. She was that small. She was 3 pounds, 15 ounces. And she was completely blue. And I thought she wasn't breathing. Nobody was speaking at all. I couldn't hear Ariella breathing or crying. Eventually, we did hear her crying. They said, we have to rush her to the NICU. When they rushed her to the NICU, they told me that they found another issue, another defect. Her esophagus had a tube going toward her stomach, but that was blocked off on one end, so there was no connection for swallowing into her stomach. The second part was her lungs were overlapping over her stomach, which means when she would breathe, air was going into her esophagus. And when she would swallow food or water, it would go through her lung. She was made back to Miami Children's Hospital. And that was a surreal experience. Because my wife was at one hospital, and I had to rush to another. When Ariella went into the hospital, I think even that first night, I emailed the Rosh Yeshiva, I emailed Boaz, I emailed Rav Natano, Citron, Rav Paul and Rav Mo. I emailed them and said, here's the situation. My Rebbeim said, what can we do? How can we help you? Tell us what you need, and we'll do it. Daven for my daughter, and then tell as many people as you can. And they did it through and through, and well past what I could have expected. The next day, she did have that surgery. It was a complete life-saving surgery. And over this, what seemed like forever, 3.5 months of going through everything we possibly can imagine. And all the while having to remember, oh wait, she has a heart problem. which was going to require a surgery at some point in time. After, they had done a lot of these therapies on her, and they'd done the different things like pulling out the air, to where they said, okay, you know what, we think that we can send her home in 2 weeks, and then when she's 8 months, 10 months, 11 months, we'll bring her back to the hospital and we'll do the full repair on her heart. Well, her cardiologist was in the hospital the next day and said, okay, team, tell me what's going on. She said, okay, so we're looking to send her home. Let's do an ultrasound to do a check. So they hooked up the ultrasound machine, put the goo on the thing, check on her. She goes, oh, we're not sending this baby home. We're going to do a surgery this week. I'm not a doctor. I'm not in the medical profession. I don't have any innate abilities where I felt I was able to provide assistance to her medical team. The only thing I could do was daven on her behalf. Davening was just the most obvious and easiest and most direct way to express ourselves and at the same time feel we were doing something. It helped in an extraordinary fashion, both with what we felt was direct Hashem answering our prayers and yet making her healthy, and at the same time consoling us. There were just nights where even weeks and weeks in, I would hours and hours and hours. While everybody else went to sleep, I would just stay up hours and hours and hours by Ariela's bedside, davening. And I pushed myself so hard just to be by her side every second I could. In davening, that extra feeling, whatever it was, she made miraculous recoveries. I mean, truly miraculous recoveries. So, yes, absolutely helped to the point where there was nothing else I felt I needed to do. I have a lot to do. And that's the number one reason why somebody should go. Not because they're in a prepared situation, but because they have a lot to be thankful for. I have been giving updates to my rebbeim, my friends, both via email and via Facebook, sending that to as many people as I could. And we wrote an update on Facebook the day before. Ariel is going to have major heart surgery tomorrow. Please keep in mind her for surgery, that should be a complete repair, full repair. I know that the rebbeim of HaTorah pride themselves on being accessible afterward, and it was proven 1,000-fold what I needed them the most. I wrote them an email, and they immediately took that as a call to action and got the lay guys involved and the community involved. And so that was one of the avenues where thousands of people were davening her. After that kind of 5.5 month period of time, she's been home with us ever since, which is a bracha, but she's still very susceptible to getting sick. Ariela came home, and then the real work started. My wife is with her every single day, and she does 6 to 7 therapies a week. She's now double her height, triple her size and weight. She's very expressive, and she gets very excited. Her arms and her legs move a lot. She loves music. Even when she doesn't have her hearing aids in, she loves music. A child requiring 7 surgeries, that makes sense, before the age of 5 months. So for me, or rather it was, hold on to everything normal that you know. And the yeshiva being one of them. I can't thank them enough. I was there 8 years ago, but I felt as if I walked out of the base yesterday. I thank God I have HaTorah. Thank God.
I would like to call up Ben at this time to stand with us while we recite a parak of Tehillah on behalf of his daughter, to continue her growth, strength, health, and development, and also on behalf of all of our brothers and sisters who are in need of tefillah. We also call upon Rav Citron, our educational director, to lead us in the parak today. If all can rise and open up the tefillah l'brios.
Shir Hamada Memalakim Prasichat Adonai ישימה וקולי, תהיינה אזניך קשובות בקול תחנוני. אם עוונות תשמוע, אדוני מי יעמוד. כי עמך סליחה למען תברך. כי ניסי אדוני כי צר נפשי, ולקרוא אכלתי. נפשי לאדוני ושומרים לבוקר, שומרים לבוקר. יחר ישראל אל אדוני, כי אם אדוני החסד והרבה מלכות. והוא יפדה את ישראל מכל עמוסה.
First of all, I want to say a very large mazel tov to the Einbinder, Murdler, and Mori families. And actually, I've obviously with Boaz many interactions with the Murdler family. I've met them several times, and each honoree, other than myself, is definitely here for a reason. I want to just talk about a couple of things. One having to do with my daughter, my wife, and our experience, and one having to do with the yeshiva, and specifically with Boaz. It's truly amazing what happened with our daughter. She had to go through, in a span of 5 months, 7 surgeries. She had a life-saving surgery the day after she was born. She had 3 surgeries to allow her to breathe through her nose. She had a surgery for her to eat. She can't eat by mouth, she eats with a G-tube. And she had a surgery to repair her heart. And what's amazing is how every single one of those challenges that came up, not only did Ariella surpass the challenge, yet passed the challenge. She flew past the challenge. At one point in time, Ariella was on a certain type of breathing machine. And if you know anything about breathing machines, you don't want to be on them. And I said to the doctor, you've seen time and time again how when you challenge her, she flies. I said, please, let's try to take her off this machine. Let's put her on the one that's less invasive. And he thinks about it and he says, okay, let's do it. So an hour later, they take her off the machine, and she immediately has a dip in a negative direction. And they were very wary of what to do next. But then 20, 30 minutes later, after that, she started breathing normally, and they were in awe, flabbergasted. Another time, she was supposed to have a blood transfusion, which you don't want to have a blood transfusion unless you absolutely have to have it. And literally, the minute they were going to put the needle in her arm, the blood test came back and said, you know what, she doesn't need it. And the doctor said to me, I have been practicing medicine for 35 years. I have never seen that. I have never seen a child, any patient, who's needed a transfusion for over a week, and we're about to stick the needle in, and the blood test all of a sudden comes back and says, we don't need it anymore. You know, actually, at the time when the cardiologist said, we need to do the heart surgery this week, I had sent out my emails, I had sent out my Facebook posts, I had said, okay, we need to daven at such and such time. I had my family, my friends all getting ready. From colleges, in communities, in Eretz Yisrael, in many different continents and countries. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I believe it was the end of March, and we were all prepared. My father-in-law and I got to the hospital. My mother-in-law and wife were going to get there a little bit later. Ariella is the first surgery on the docket, and they said, okay, we're going to prep her for surgery, and then we're going to go in. They prepped her for surgery. We wait 20 minutes, and they said, we're about to go in, just be prepared. 20 minutes passed. Another 20 minutes. Another 20 minutes. And slowly but surely, we're seeing nurses and doctors trickle out of our room and disappear. And about an hour and a half later, I said to one of the nurses, I said, what's going on? And then immediately rushed in the nurse practitioner for the surgery team, and she said, I'm so sorry. We need to postpone your daughter's surgery. There's another child in the ICU whose heart is failing right now, and we need all the doctors. And all you had to do was look out of our room, and you saw a tiny little ICU room with about 25 doctors and 10 nurses. It was insane. There's no other word for it. Insane. And I said, of course, Ariella, this is not emergency right now. Go to that baby. Go to that child. And it happened to be that we had thousands upon thousands of people waiting across the world ready to daven for Ariella. So I emailed the Rebbeim, I emailed my friends, I emailed my family, put the Facebook post up, and I said, Ariella's getting postponed, but we have another baby that's in critical condition. We need a daven for this baby now. And Baruch Hashem, that baby not only was able to have her heart, I believe her heart corrected, but she's thriving today. Thriving today. I checked up with the doctors and they said she's doing very well. And we not had HaKadosh Baruch Hu putting all those people together at that one day, who knows what would have happened. But it was just hashgacha practice that we had thousands upon thousands of people waiting to daven for Ariella, only to have it necessary not for her, but for somebody else. It's incredible to have such a support system. And I want to now switch gears and talk about the yeshiva and talk about Rav Boaz specifically. I actually knew Rav Boaz when I went to IBA camp when I was 13 years old. And when I was getting ready to look at yeshivas and apply to yeshivas, and I'm sure all the Rebbeim would laugh at me, I knew where I was going, and it was not HaTorah. I had my mind 100% set on a different yeshiva. And in fact, when I visited the yeshiva, when I visited HaTorah, I was a little bit rude to Rav Boaz, because he asked me, he said, so what's your plan? And I said, I mean no disrespect, but I'm going to a different yeshiva. I was really there because two of my friends wanted to go to Lake. And he said, well, that yeshiva is great. I just want to tell you what we have here, and that's it. I heard the spiel, and I walked out knowing I wanted to go to this other yeshiva. I visited this other yeshiva, and I realized this isn't the place for me. So I had a discussion with my parents, and I was torn. I said, what do I do? And they said, why don't you go visit HaTorah one more time? See if you like it. The next day, I believe, was Erev Purim. And this is the old campus of HaTorah, on Nachal Luz. And I walk in the doors. Rav Boaz is walking out of the base toward the entrance. He doesn't say anything. He just comes, hugs me, and says, welcome. And that was my decision. Even though I was rude to him 2 days before, he welcomed me with literally open arms. And it has not stopped. The yeshiva was instrumental in getting thousands of people to daven for my daughter. And I have, thank God, such a connection to many of the Rebbeim. And not just many of the Rebbeim, I am fortunate that I've been visiting HaTorah ever since I left 8 years ago. And I know many of the guys who are here today who are 5, 6, 7 years younger than I am. And it's an incredible support system and family. And that's really what HaTorah is. It is a fantastic, growing family that for the last 10 years started as just a dream and has become more than anyone could have ever imagined. When my wife and I found out that during the pregnancy that Ariella had a heart problem, I took it upon myself to learn different things. And one of them was the Yeras Ramban, the letter of the Ramban to his son, to one of his sons. And I wanted to learn the art school version because Rabbi Foyer brings down a lot of great ideas. And toward the end of it, Rabbi Foyer brings down a Gemara in Kiddushin that is translated into the reward for mitzvahs is not found in this world. Rabbi Foyer brings down the Vilna Gaon who says
nothing in this world is adequate. Is adequate enough to serve as fair payment. There is nothing my wife and I could, and the rest of our family, could ever do to say thank you enough to our friends, to our family, to the yeshiva, to all the people who davened for our daughter. She is, thank God, thriving beyond measure from what she was in the hospital. She has ranges of motion we never thought she could have. She still has a long way to go, and that's why we continue to daven for her, but she has made and continues to make incredible strides. And there's literally nothing I could ever do to say thank you enough to all the people who did it, which is obviously everyone here, because if you're affiliated with HaTorah, you've impacted me in a real way. So, I'm honored, my wife is honored, and it's truly a blessing to be affiliated with such a yeshiva that does so much for its Talmidim. Thank you.
Elizabeth. This gift is for you to remember it should be an eternal memory that we're always by your side and you're forever